Pursuing legal eviction is an unfortunate, but sometimes necessary decision for landlords. But what if there were other legal means of getting your property back? Today we examine some of the alternative methods property owners can use that are not the mentally and financially draining eviction process. Hey everyone, it's Alyssa here from Bay Property Management Group, your local property management experts here to help owners throughout Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania get the most from their rental investment. Before we get started, be sure to check out the link in the description below to our blog, which features the latest industry news, plus advice and tips for rental owners, investors, and tenants. So with that said, let's jump into today's video. The mere hint of eviction conjures up feelings of anxiety for all parties involved. Fortunately, there are some steps landlords can take before reaching this critical point, but today we will focus on the three most common eviction alternatives for rental owners. Whenever landlords and tenants can avoid a lengthy and costly court battle, it is for the better. Besides, in situations where eviction is looming, tenants often already know they are in the wrong. Therefore, an option that avoids a court eviction on their record can be appealing. The first option we suggest is to offer cash for keys. While this may not sound immediately appealing, it is one of the more effective solutions. Essentially, owners are offering to pay for the tenant to leave. Although this can cost quite a bit, keep in mind the time, lost rent, and expenses that are associated with traditional eviction. After all, the sooner the troublesome tenants are out, the quicker you can start collecting rent from a more reliable tenant. So, if this is something you will consider, there are a few steps in the process. Step number 1. Tell your tenant in straightforward and professional terms what the problem is and explain why they can no longer stay on the property. Step number 2. Calmly explain that the tenants will be evicted with necessary court orders if they choose to remain on the property. Step number 3. Further explain that if the tenants leave on their own, they can avoid costly consequences associated with a lengthy court eviction. Let them know your offer, which is to give them cash that they can potentially use for a deposit at a new residence or general moving costs. Step number 4. Once all parties have agreed to the terms in writing, inspect the property, retrieve the keys from the tenants, and pay them. Immediately change the locks and be sure that all utility companies involved are satisfied. If applicable, return the tenant's deposit within the time frame allotted by law. Moving is expensive, but also a huge hassle, so for struggling tenants, this can seem like a monumental task. During this process, there is a lot that landlords can do to make it a smoother transition. For example, if you have access to cheaper rates on moving trucks or cleaning supplies, consider offering them to your tenant. In addition, assist by providing tenants with business cards or phone numbers to other property managers in the area who may meet their desired price point. If you approach these situations with a more positive and helpful attitude, tenants may feel more comfortable with the idea of leaving. The direct approach is often the best, which means owners can simply ask the tenants to leave. In general, most people prefer to avoid conflict, especially if it means protecting their credit in the process. So, calmly but firmly explain how leaving on their own can achieve a more positive result. That said, it is vital to thoroughly explain why the tenants cannot stay, such as unacceptable behavior on their part or extenuating circumstances beyond your control. In the end, there should be no question as to why the tenant must go. However, if the situation is more flexible, such as a missed rent payment or a minor lease violation, there may be a chance for negotiation. Reach out to the tenants and try to understand their situation better. If you find that they can pay again in the future or solve a problem, keeping them around could potentially be a better alternative to evicting them. Remember that allowing for open channels of communication between yourself and your tenants at all times is extremely important. Property owners may feel they have the right to remove anyone at any time and for anything. However, this is not the case. Before taking any steps towards a legal or alternative form of eviction, it is important that owners understand a tenant's legal rights. Unfortunately, not every landlord has the best of intentions. Therefore, there are laws in place to protect a tenant from retaliatory evictions. With that said, owners have the right to pursue removing a tenant for reasons such as if you are selling the property, need to complete extensive renovations, the tenant breaks or violates any of the lease terms, there's non-payment of rent, the tenants cause damage to the property, or a tenant does not leave when the lease expires. Attempting an eviction of any kind for reasons besides what is allowed by law is a huge mistake. Some common examples of illegal reasons to evict include discrimination. Simply put, owners cannot evict a tenant based solely on their feelings towards any fair housing protected classes. Doing so opens up the landlord to potential complaints and a justified lawsuit from the tenant. Also, keep in mind that protected classes will vary from state to state, so be sure to research the laws in your area carefully. The next type of illegal eviction involves personal vendettas or retaliatory evictions. Evicting a tenant to get back at them for a dispute, or any disagreement for that matter, is illegal. While aggravation is unfortunate, it is not grounds for an eviction that will hold up in court. So never attempt to evict a tenant based on them complaining or illegally reporting you to a code enforcement or housing authority. Another illegal reason to evict is when tenants withhold rent for a legitimate reason. A landlord is required to make necessary repairs to maintain the property's standard of habitability. So if you fail to do so, a tenant can withhold rent in escrow until the health or safety issue is resolved. This is not the same thing as non-payment of rent, and therefore is not an enforceable reason to evict someone. Our final example is engaging in self-help evictions. Some landlords make the mistake of attempting to remove tenants without respecting lease agreements. It is important to avoid using methods such as changing the locks while the tenants still live at the property, removing the tenant's property, failing to pay included utilities such as water, or cutting them off entirely, threats of any kind, or direct orders to leave as a means of forcing the tenant from the property. When having the tenants vacate is the only path forward, respect, professionalism, and legal compliance are the keys to success. But if alternative solutions don't work, the only option left is to pursue a traditional eviction through the court. For more advice on a variety of other issues important to the rental industry, subscribe to the Bay Property Management Group channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on exclusive content. Also, be sure to check out our blog via the link in the description below for tips on everything from home maintenance to financing your first income property purchase. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.